Hello everyone, welcome to Dr. Prim's Thought Space. I am Primrose Jikomborero Joylene Bima and I create content about research, career development and wellness. In today's special episode, I am going to be reflecting on what it means to be a graduate of the University of Cape Town. Now, the University of Cape Town holds a very special place in my heart because that is where I attained all my 4 degrees: a Bachelor of Social Science majoring in International Relations, Gender Studies, and Public Policy and Administration, a Bachelor of Social Science honors majoring in Gender and Transformation, a Master of Social Science degree in International Relations, and of course, my Doctor of Philosophy in Political Studies. So, Dr. Prim is a pure UCT graduate. So, I want to inform you that in as much as the university that you attend matters in terms of shaping your career trajectory, that should not be the only factor that defines whether you are going to excel or be successful in life overall. And obviously, because I've only attended the University of Cape Town, I thought that my reflections on my university life and what my degrees have given me should be tailored according to the topic of the day, what it means to be a UCT graduate. All right, so let's get into this. I've got some notes written down, and I'm going to be looking down every now and again so that I ensure that I do not miss anything. I hope that this video finds you well. Please sit down and relax. Grab a beverage of preference, whether warm, cold, or hot, because this is going to take a while and you might want to take some sips along the way. I want you to take note of this because I highly benefited from the university's research intensive focus. So, if you're keen to explore your career as a researcher in a particular field, I would encourage you to check out the University of Cape Town's website. I promise you, this is not an endorsed video, but to check out the programs they have and to see whether you can actually undertake a research program at that particular university. All right. So, what I love about the University of Cape Town is that it has consistently ranked as top within the South African context, as well as on the African continent, as well as globally amongst top 200 to top 300 rankings, depending, of course, on the indices that the ranking institutions will be looking at. And it has produced excellent graduates. I love that about the University of Cape Town. Now, it might interest you to know that when I applied to study at the University of Cape Town, I had no idea how excellent this institution was. I applied to it because I loved Cape Town, and I applied to it because my father required me to apply to an academic university. So, for context, I really wanted to go to film school. I wanted to be a screenwriter, I wanted to be a documentary filmmaker. So, my first preference when it came to options for tertiary education was to go to a film school, and that was after. They have a Cape Town campus. Because I loved Cape Town, that is the campus that I'd applied to. I went as far as attending interviews as well as submitting scripts for review, and I got a place. This was in 2011. Now, my father back then, the firstborn curse, was like, I get it. I love that you got a firm offer, but can we explore academic universities? Because for him, the trajectory that he understood was that once you leave high school and you've got good grades, you proceed to a university where you study towards a degree in, fair enough, not like very traditional fields, but in subjects that people understand. So I'm saying understand because for my father, film studies, even if it was going to be studied at UCT, did not make sense. So that is how I ended up applying to the University of Cape Town, and I applied to study towards either a Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Social Science. Knowing that I wanted to do a humanities degree had always been a no-brainer, and my parents had endorsed this desire for the longest time. So they were comfortable with paying for a humanities degree. That wasn't a challenge. So now to take us back into the purpose of the video, most of my friends at high school had applied to attend the University of Cape Town, but they got rejections. And because I thought they were smarter than me, or perhaps they were, even though we were pursuing different subjects, even though we were pursuing different subjects and wanted to study towards different degrees, I just thought, you know what, I won't bother following up on my UCT application. When the year is about to end, I'll just say to my dad, you know what, let's pay for after. I'm going to Cape Town to study film. So I had an uncle who at the time was at the University of Cape Town pursuing his master's, and he knew how to check on application um, statuses online with just, your allocated student number or applicant number. So for whatever reason, he decided he was going to check on my application status. And voila, this girl had a firm offer. So he picks up the phone, calls my father, and says, congratulations, Primrose has the firm offer to study at the University of Cape Town. Did you know? So it turns out that because back then we were applying and receiving, stuff via post. My firm offer was still on its way from Cape Town to Harare via post, but of course, online, the firm offer had been confirmed, and I just hadn't checked. I had also not checked my email because I don't love disappointment. I like to avoid pain. I'm saying I like because that's still me in many ways. So my father is excited, you know. My father was excited rather when he heard this. And he started speaking about how the University of Cape Town is the best on the continent, how it's highly ranked on global rankings, and how he's super committed to selling whatever he needs to sell and putting together all the funds that are required to make sure that this girl attends the best because she is also the best. So, my passion for film and media had to be halted, or perhaps it died. I won't say that it died because I do a lot of stuff that is digital media related, that is filming related, so it didn't die. My father was just not going to sponsor that dream. So when we then sat down to discuss what I would then be studying, I was very much interested in international relations. He then encouraged me to say, you need to also take up public policy and administration because in as much as you want to do something that is foreign policy oriented, you need to understand how policy works at multiple levels. And public policy is obviously the source of all this. So that was a no-brainer. I was all about gender justice and I wanted to know how academically and research wise I could actually promote gender justice across the world. So, gender studies being a third major was also a no brainer. I'm telling you this for context so that you know that by the time I went to the University of Cape Town to register in January of 2012, I already knew what I wanted to register for. I was not one of those students who were looking through the curriculum and handbook, trying to speak to different curriculum advisors and get advice on what to do and what not. If anything, the only advice I needed was around electives so that I do all the required numbers of courses. So, also for context, because my family was excited, the money was put together. I had my suitcase packed by November, so much that, by December, when I was still grappling with the fact that I didn't have a study visa, I was already packed. So, yeah, background to how I got to the University of Cape Town. It was never my first choice. It was never my dream university. What I wanted to do was to study in the city of Cape Town and pursue a career in film, media, and particularly documentary filmmaking. So, yeah, I then enrolled. I was excited because, of course, I loved the courses that I was taking. And as a pure research oriented person from a very young age, I was ready to take things on. The only shocks I encountered at UCT were, of course, the marks. I thought I was going to be getting 90s and 80s, understanding that you can't get 100% in essays. But to my surprise, I used to get marks in the low 60s, mid 60s, high 60s at most. I don't think that I had the struggle of getting like marks that were in the danger zones of failing in my undergraduate career. And I highly attribute that to entering the space prepared because of my high school education and overall excellence over the years from primary school. So, what did UCT give me really? I think personally, UCT gave me a particular confidence that needed to be nurtured. So I believe that I went in intellectually confident because of the grades that I had from high school. And although my light was dimmed a bit, the zeal that I had gave me an attitude that said, Prim, always aim for continuous improvement. And from day one, that was my aim. And that spirit was nurtured and encouraged because I was surrounded by a humanities mentorship program, a politics mentorship program that also spoke to the need to focus on continuous improvement. Getting 50s, low 60s, whatever mark you deem as a low at that stage of your university career doesn't mean that you are doomed. So I love that I was integrated into such programs, and that helped me eventually to excel and proceed to postgraduate studies and even excel more, getting better marks at postgraduate level. So I hope now you understand that I just wasn't that person who got distinctions throughout. And it's okay to not get them because you can still become a doctor in future as long as you aim for continuous improvement. So, major gain from UCT, intellectual confidence. The second one was high standards and expectations. It's not enough to just be confident because you can't go out in the world and be confident not knowing the standard of your education or your expertise. I was exposed to the best academics in the country, on the continent, and also globally in multiple fields, particularly I think in gender justice as well as in justice and transformation, and to some extent in African international relations. So that is important. Research intensive universities, particularly highly ranked one, invest in staff members who are excellent in their fields. So it is a benefit that then comes if you attend a university where they're either teaching or supervising. So for me, for example, Professor John Akupari, the supervisor I had for master's, PhD, as well as postdoc, was someone who was excellent in his area on Africa and international relations. So I benefited to a large extent because he taught me from first year. He then supervised me. We then collaborated in writing research papers as well as book chapters and conference presentation papers. So because I was in that space, I was best placed to benefit from UCT recruiting that particular member of staff. I could spend the whole day speaking about other members of staff, but I chose to give him as an example because I think he's one of the people I had the longest relationships with in academia and continue to obviously do so, even though I've left academia. With gender, purely excellent with the African, Gender Justice Institute because I learned a lot there as part of a young women's leadership project for Southern Africa, as a tutor, as a teaching assistant, and eventually as a lecturer. So I got that refinement, from people that are gurus in their field, from people that are well connected, from people that develop programs that help you to further nurture yourself beyond your academic capabilities. So, for example, the Young Women's Leadership Project I spoke about, that goes beyond writing in class or doing presentations, but you get to interact with other young women, feminists from different parts of the continent, and you put ideas together, you develop projects, you learn skills that help you when you get into the world of work. So I think being in a university that has a focused center that goes beyond just the academic development helped me in that regard. So from this, you can see that in as much as the University of Cape Town focuses a lot on research and academic development, there are institutions or centers that can help you to sharpen your skills beyond the academic discipline. So I think I also gained um, resilience. It's tough being in the UCT trenches, particularly during the time that I attended. If you think about 2012 through to 2015, when I did my undergraduate and honors qualifications, we would notice the impact of racism, institutionalized racism on how we were taught in terms of the curriculum, the structure, the subjects, the examples, the theories that we applied. We also experienced it even in the way that our work was marked. And so that was also one of the reasons why I probably got certain marks. But I won't dwell on that, of course, because that's something that has passed. But it did, affect um, us a lot. So I've mentioned intellectual confidence. I've mentioned high standards and expectations. I've mentioned also being resilient. I think I gained a silent comparison streak. Whether this is a good thing or not, I think is a discussion, that we can have another day. But because people expect you to excel career wise, money wise, and in every aspect of your life. I think even marriage, you're going to marry the best, you're going to have the best job, you're going to have the best salary, you're going to live in the best cities, what have you. You go out into the world already feeling like you are disappointing the people that spent money on you going to get a UCT education. And you already feel like you are misrepresenting the caliber of graduates that UCT is supposed to produce. And of course, you already have your own expectations of yourself. You put in all that work, you made sure that you excelled within the standards and benchmarks that you were given in this excellent institution, and you're just going to go out there into the world and be unemployed for 1 to 2 years post masters, for example. Yo, and then you compare yourself to people that didn't get that, and they look like they're doing way better in life. Now, I said silent comparison because vocalizing that is not something I've ever thought about. I don't want to be a jealous human. So my comparison often ends at, oh my goodness, what is it that I could have done differently? Should I have gone to a university that was, less expensive? Because I think, varsity is expensive, full stop. And also, does this mean that maybe people don't want to hire me because they think I should be in certain institutions? And I say this because people encourage you to apply everywhere, start low, volunteer anywhere, and whatnot. But when you go to those spaces with a UCT qualification, oftentimes people think you are probably, an intellectual snob. But I think it also has something to do with their own inferiority complexes sometimes, because they're thinking, someone from UCT, we cannot employ her, we cannot afford her intellectually, we cannot afford her financially and otherwise. So sometimes they also think you're not the best fit, because there's also the perception that some have created to say UCT graduates are actual just, intellectual snobs. They think they know the most, they think they're the best in the room every time. So the energy they project are energies that maybe, some employers don't want to be associated with. But I don't think that's something I've really encountered. And I think I was told early enough before leaving the university, the career services oriented us around, job applications, job interviews, and how to ensure that wherever you go, you humble yourself, let your skills and let your qualifications speak for you the most. There's no need to be braggadocious. So, yeah, I was shy when I had to go to a space to ask and volunteer after my master's because, of course, I was looking for unpaid work. It was a faith based organization. And instead of telling them that I'd completed my master's, I was literally like, I just finished my undergraduate qualification from UCT. I'm keen to learn. I love research and I'd like to learn more about, how refugees are integrated into different societies, and I'm a Christian and I love Christian led work. So, I mean, I got the role, obviously. And what sucked was, as I was in this role, my supervisor slash immediate boss, the director, who also, welcomed me to share a desk with her in her office, always spoke about, you're so brilliant. You need to go get a master's. I don't want you to continue interning here because you're wasting away your potential. You need to get a master's. And I couldn't tell her that I already went through the master's trenches. And, in hindsight, I think it was a good thing that I didn't tell her that I had a master's, because maybe I was not going to get the internship because I would be deemed overqualified. But if I said I had a bachelor's, they'll think, oh, yeah, she deserves a chance. This is a child just out of varsity wanting to learn, maybe doesn't have money for postgraduate studies. But framing myself as a master's graduate, maybe I could have gotten something better. I don't know. That's also water under the bridge. But I just wanted to use that situation to show you how having a UCT degree already affirmed that I had excellent research skills, excellent writing skills, and also I was prepared for the world of work, in as much as there were no jobs that were able to take me up at the time. So my next role, After that, when I became, a regional analyst, this was at an organization called Political Economy Southern Africa, PESA. When I was applying for the role, foremost, they said they wanted someone who was Johannesburg based. And they wanted someone who had extensive experience in research. And they wanted people who were going to cover Africa's biggest economies. So I applied for the role, even though I was based in Eswatini. Yes, because I've got that spirit. I'm just like, I have the intellectual confidence. I've got, the high quality education. And I'm resilient and tenacious, so I will try anyway. I apply for this role. At the time, I indicate my address. This time around, I didn't lie about anything. I didn't like dial down my qualifications. I didn't lie about my location also. They invite me for an interview and they say, okay, we'll do it via Skype. Skype didn't work and they were like, it's fine. We're going to give you a call and pass the phone around our table because it was a panel of interviewers. And I got the role. I got the role also because when we were submitting our written papers, I looked at the job description and what they wanted in terms of research focus and quickly picked Nigeria and South Africa because I was like, you know what? A lot of people are going to pick smaller countries. People will even expect me to pick Eswatini because I'm leaving there, but I'm going to go for the big countries so that I increase my chances of getting the role. But also, I was setting myself up against people that have probably been doing research on this context or political economy research in general, meaning that I might have become the person who doesn't get the role because, of course, there are better people who can do analysis on Nigeria and South Africa. Well, surprise, 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 I got the role. And my allocated countries, the main one became South Africa. And I also got Eswatini, amongst others. And then they found ways of working around my location. I'm speaking 2017. COVID had not hit. Remote working was not a major thing in Southern Africa or Africa as a whole. And they were still willing to pay for me to fly over when I needed to be in Johannesburg, to pay for transport and other needs when I had to go and do project work in different parts of the country. So I honestly attribute that to being someone from UCT. I'm saying this because when I was 16 years old in Zimbabwe, after my ordinary level exams, all I thought was if I pass my ordinary level exams, maybe that means I will go and do advanced level studies and then I'm going to go to the University of Zimbabwe and, like any other woman, get married, raise a family, raise kids, and put them through the same system. Finish. But no, I managed, at least after my ordinary level studies, to go to Lesotho where I attended an international school. And I think that's also one of the reasons why I actually thought about film school and even applying to the University of Cape Town. I never knew about university rankings. I never knew about the University of Cape Town when I was 16. But for some today, we're probably 10 years old and wanting to go to UCT already. So I think being a UCT graduate helped me to be audacious in that regard, to apply regardless of particular specifications, and to be confident enough to shoot my shot for the toughest parts of the interview process in terms of the case studies that I chose for research. Now I'm going to give you the next one, and I think this will be my last example for today. Um, Fast forward after my role at PESA, or while I was at PESA still, I got called for an interview for a role at a Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and they asked us which departments we wanted to get into. When I did my research about this organization, people kept telling me how everyone was scared to be in the policy research department because you write every day, you write every month, you're under pressure to produce reports. And I was like, really? Really? You find that challenging? It's okay. When I do my interview, I will position myself as a policy researcher, and I can really back that up because I'm a regional analyst already, focusing on one of Africa's biggest economies at the time, and I think still today, of course, South Africa. So I've got the unique edge. I'm going to apply myself fully during my in-person interview so that I wow the panel and convince them that I'm the best policy researcher they can get. The audacity, the intellectual confidence, everything, and obviously just merely being backed up at the end of the day by my academic results helped. So I'm grateful, forever grateful, because going through UCT helped me to sharpen the skills. I am fully aware that for some people, these are skills or career awareness gains they might not have attained. And, people experience university differently. And sometimes we have challenges that come our way that hinder us from gaining the same experience. But this is, of course, my story. Now, what I also want to speak about today is success from attending the best university in your country, in the continent, globally, is not guaranteed. And that we have to understand. So, foremost, always be humble intellectually in spaces that you enter. Study the space, study the people, learn the space because you are a good learner, which is why you excelled at what you excelled at in university. So continue being a good learner and then lead from that process of being a learner in different spaces. Um, Being a UCT graduate doesn't always mean you are highly sought after, whether it's a law degree, a commerce degree, a humanities degree, what have you. But I obviously stand corrected because there are particular fields where maybe this argument does not hold water. And so you're not protected from struggles. My struggles, foremost in this world, are shaped by three key realities. Number one, I am a Zimbabwean citizen and a Zimbabwean citizen alone. And that citizenship has particular constraints that it has imposed upon me globally. That's a fact. That's a story for another day. Number two, being a woman. Yes, we're living in a world where gender justice matters a lot and certain sectors are constantly adjusting. But that does not mean that I am not subjected to some of the injustices that women have faced over the years. Some people won't recruit you purely because you are a young Black woman, because they're thinking one day you're going to want to leave for maternity leave, whatever it is that is required in terms of you serving society because of your reproductive role and also your role, for example, with taking care of family duties and whatnot. Maybe they assume you can't work particular hours. The examples are numerous. So I can't get rid of the fact that I'm a Zimbabwean citizen. I can't get rid of the fact that I am a Black African woman. And also, the third one is I came into the University of Cape Town without particular exposure to certain networks. I know people who already had parents, relatives, family, friends, and whatnot, for example, who were in the United Nations, who for them it was easier to leave university after the first or second degree and go into those spaces, flourish. And right now they're earning big monies, they have big roles in international organizations, and they did not need a master's or PhD, and they will not need it perhaps in the foreseeable future. Same applies to those who shifted to corporate. Some already had one foot in through someone whom they knew. Some already, had a foot in because they aligned themselves with particular friends in varsity who then, of course, were friends who knew people that knew people in good places, and then they went there eventually. So yeah, some key realities stick with you, but it doesn't mean that you do not become exceptional. For example, the PESA example I gave, I applied. They were looking for someone South Africa based, Johannesburg based, but shooting my shot helped in the end. The job that I work right now, they wanted someone Johannesburg based in South Africa, of course, but we found our way around it because they valued the skills that I have and knew that they were not keen to just forego, recruiting me because I did not have a particular identity document or particular residency. All right, so I'm running out of time because I have to go for breakfast. Shooting from hotels is something else. Okay, so I spoke about how, success is not guaranteed. Doing something at UCT doesn't guarantee your future with the institution. Number one, some people could have attained their bachelor's but been rejected from honors programs. You might have your bachelor's and your honors from the University of Cape Town and be rejected when you apply for masters. You might have a master's from the University of Cape Town and be rejected for your PhD. Fortunately for me, I was never rejected for anything at the University of Cape Town. Fortunately, love that. However, I had an honors scholarship, got extremely good grades, way better than I had ever attained over the 4 years of university, undergraduate and honors, right? Um, but then, despite the fact that I had an honors scholarship, the same office did not offer me a master's scholarship. My application was basically rejected. Fortunately for me, family came through, managed to then go back again to UCT for masters because, of course, I had gotten the place. And then I lacked confidence when it came to applying for PhD scholarships because I was thinking, but if UCT did not, offer me funding for masters after honors, what are the chances? But I didn't let that deter me. I applied for a PhD scholarship and I got it. And then when I was applying for postdoctoral funding, I was confident, but also I was a bit bruised. The first time I applied, I got rejected and I tried again because I really wanted it. And I think these applications were within a period of like 1 to 2 weeks, getting rejected this week, reapplying the next week, and then, after like another week, getting the postdoc. So you can still get rejected within the system. And just because you have tutored a course, you've been teaching assistant, you have been lecturer for a course, you've been a course convener for a course, doesn't mean that when they want someone full time, they will take you. I will just end there. So I think even that thing of I'm a UCT graduate, it is not in any way a UCT right or birthright, I don't know, for lack of a better phrase, that you will be retained by the system or that the system will always take you in. And I think that helps because that's how also the world works. Just because you pass your O levels, A levels, varsity, and whatnot doesn't mean that you're going to pass in the next level. Just because you've been promoted before doesn't mean you'll continue to be promoted. Just because you've been working in the top firms or top department doesn't mean you always get offers from them. So it also teaches you to grapple with rejection, but also in a way that like is resilience building. And I think that for me, resilience building exists because I took up the tenacity to say I will always aim for continuous improvement. Where did I go wrong? I'm going to go back, revise, and come back better and earn it. I think one other thing I just want to say is that the University of Cape Town exposed me to amazing people. I also attribute that to me being someone who is interactive, whether in residence, in class, in multiple spaces, extracurricular activities. And those people have become my professional networks slash social networks. And we help each other by sharing opportunities with each other and also making sure that, when someone is struggling, we help them with ideas. And it's just been amazing having such people as part of my support system. So thank you so much to God Almighty for ensuring that this girl goes to the University of Cape Town to pursue the studies that she pursued in disciplines that she was very much interested in, and that in as much as she did not become a film or documentary producer, she is Dr. Prim of Dr. Prim's Thought Space, who is doing the best and of course has not arrived anywhere because life is all about continuous improvement and aiming for better. So I will forever be grateful that I managed to attend the University of Cape Town, foremost thanks to God Almighty, thanks to my father for pushing to say he will only apply himself fully to funding me towards an academic degree at an academic institution. And, I don't regret going to UCT. Foremost, it already, gave me the opportunity to live in Cape Town. Amazing place, love it, as some of you would know, and I gained so much from it. So if you're really curious about, what gaining a UCT experience is, I highly encourage you to apply so that you stand a better chance of getting a place. Do not be discouraged by people who say that it's difficult to get in. Do not be discouraged when your friends get rejections and not check up on your own, application status, whatever the case may be. Shoot your shot and you never know. You might get in and excel within the system. Thank you for watching until the end. I look forward to engaging with you in future videos. It is a goodbye for now. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you've not done so yet. And of course, to share for wider reach.